Hey, what's up, everybody? You already know who it is. You ain't got to guess who it is. You already know. It's Guess Who, the rapper, aka the Grand Ambassador, Flesh Dynasty, here to lace your brain with some incredible and glorious game once again, man. Acting as your host in the capacity of the reluctant YouTuber. And before we begin, as usual, you know what I'm saying? If you like yourself, hit that like button. If you like someone else, hit that share button. And if you love yourself, hit that subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? And if you want your to be certified and notified and your certification, hit that notification button. You know what I'm saying? That way you'll get the video as soon as it drops. You know what I'm saying? So let me get right into it. I want to talk about like something that kind of was discussing earlier today with my girl. We were talking, and it's just about some more of this glorified game, or that will lead you to the golden glow, where you're reaching the upper levels and different levels and ages and stages of your life, to where you can shine on and glow from within and have that glow illuminated all over your body and start feeling good. And some of the process of doing that is, conquering conquering these internal battles, such as the topic for today is addictions. Now, I know me. I am I have a very addictive nature. And I was kind of like an extremist. So when I do things, I try to pretty much autopilot takes over. It goes to the extreme, but 9 out of 10 times were things that led down a destructive path instead of a productive path. Due to the fact that I lacked a lot of discipline. Though when I was younger, I was crying out for discipline, and not necessarily meaning that when you're younger, you're crying out for spankings, even though subconsciously you are, the rods of correction and things of that nature. But I'm talking about a discipline in a particular area of expertise. When I was younger, I loved the Shaw Brother movies, Kung Fu movies. We call them karate movies. The drive-in theater used to come on, every Saturday. Dun, 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 dun. And then you would see movies like The Five Deadly Venoms, or, you see movies like Kid with the Golden Arm and Invincible Shaolin. But during these movies, they would have like the training session. And then they would be training to be that Kung Fu master that they were. Just like in Fist of the White Lotus, he had to train and learn different techniques in order to defeat Priest Pac May, who was the chief of the White Lotus clan, or the Lotus clan. He was the White Lotus, chief of the Lotus clan, right? But they would go through these, these scenes where they're practicing. And that's a form of discipline. That's what I was crying out for, because I was so into those movies. I wanted to be like that. You know what I mean? I wanted to be like them. And if I was going to fight, I wanted to be the best, like higher up, like that tier level of fighting. And but I never had that time, not time, but my moms didn't have the money when I wanted to learn karate or boxing or kung fu. And I asked her one time, because my boy Warren's pops used to do karate, and I was like, I want to learn for him. She was like, no, and all that. But anyway, so as a result, that's not the path of the extreme that I wanted. That's how extreme I was. I wanted to be that top level, kind of. And you could say that's extreme, but yeah. But as a result of not that, and not having like a father figure or just a male figure, you turn to the streets. So in the streets, I did the extremities in the realm of fun, and what I thought in the fun category of what I thought was fun, and engaging in what they term and deem like hedonistic activities, or what I mean, just putting pleasure over everything, all about the partying and fun. And when I got a little older, you know what I mean, and along came with that was sex, drugs, alcohol, partying, women, you know what I mean? That kind of consumed my life, like, you know what I mean? It was like all you thinking about, you know what I mean? You just thinking about that. And if you're not careful, look, this for all the young men too. Don't do what I did and prioritize fun and partying and not being productive, or not choosing a path in life where you should go, or what you're gifted at doing. Now, I didn't have this information. That's why a lot of our lives are destroyed. Like it says in the Bible, Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. There's a lot of, and knowledge is what? Gain. You know what I mean? And if you have the game, boom, you can profit or benefit from the information, which is phenomenal. PI, phenomenal information. MP, makes possibilities or makes progress. You know what I mean? PIMP. Like Zip with the Drip said, let's get to that. Check it out. So me not having that sort of discipline, and that so I can channel my energy into productive activities, I did begin to develop and chase after destructive habits. So, and then I was just going over what I was thinking about over my life as I'm talking to my girl earlier. And I'm not going to get too deep into it as far as intimate conversations, but I will highlight something. So I had to go back and go in a hot tub time machine and take a trip down memory lane to find out how did I come to these certain revelations, even though God is the revealer of revelation, cause you to go back in time and trace your steps and stuff like that, or trace his steps for protection. You know what I mean? Because he definitely protected me during these journeys. So as I'm walking down these dark corridors, calling myself having fun, down a destructive path. You know what I mean? First was the hedonism, getting with the girls, and you know what I mean, and having sex, and and party and boo and party, and yeah, I was all about party time. Oh, it's, you know what I mean, that whole thing. So then, what was the first thing I tried? Like alcohol. We was drinking 40s back then. So we drinking 40s. Though alcohol, I have a high tolerance for it. It ain't no real big addictive problems. But there's a nature that was in me, I ain't realizing, that was an addictive nature. So I'm like, yo, let me try something else. So then I started trying cigarettes. So I just took a toke one time. And then I think the first time I tried like a real cigarette was when I was working at the mall. It was like this man was like an uncle to me. He was a friend of my mom's. You know what I mean? Dapping them pops. Jay was smoking cigarettes, and we worked at the mall together. Me, Dap, and Kiati, and we was like, and I was like, yo, let me try that. You know what I mean? He was like, Tudor, no. He was like, no, you don't want to try this. Stay away from this. Because once you start, you ain't gonna be able to stop. Did I listen? No. That kind of turned me on more. I wanted to, see more, and find out for myself. So, when I got the chance to, I started smoking cigarettes, but not smoking. I just tested it. I was like, I didn't really like it. So, as I got a little older, we started drinking. But that's what we was doing on the block, you know what I mean? Or hanging out with our friends or hanging out on the block. We would drink, mostly malt liquor and beer, then liquor. And then we started smoking weed. Now, in junior high, I was introduced to weed through my man Warren, you know what I'm saying? He used to smoke weed, you know what I mean? And shoot, that became like, I had to have that, you know what I mean? I was a straight up pothead, dude. You did? Straight up pothead. So I was smoking weed, you know what I mean? And that brought what? Fun and all of that stuff. So not only did we smoke weed, we would drink with it, and we would have girls. And then after that, we would have sex. So that was, that was a pattern of my teenage years. And you think you fly if you could bag all the girls, or if you could smoke a lot of weed and and drink, you know what I mean? So then as I got a little older, I started experimenting with sniffing cocaine. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling y'all this not to just to put out a big expose of what I'm doing, what I used to do or whatever like that. But look, I'd rather tell my story before somebody else do. Say I blow up and then they find out this information that I'm telling y'all now from somewhere else in order to try to criticize and minimize my character. No, I already told you. This is what I did. That's why I learned this from Andre Taylor. Shout out to Gorgeous Dre. Tell your story before your enemy does. So, and that way, they don't have no power over you. But anyway, so, I tested it, you know what I mean, with cocaine and, and then we tested it with lacing it on the weed. So as things progress, I'm selling this stuff now. And just so happened one time I just violated the one of Biggie's 10 crack commandments was never get high on your own supply. And just testing it, since I was tested it before with regular cocaine and weed, I started testing it with actual crack rocks and put it in cigarettes, and roll them up and smoking that. That was strong, you know what I mean? That was strong, and my body liked it. So that was like a introduction into from cocaine to crack cocaine in a experimental stage to where it became a flat out usage, you know what I mean? Where I was like getting strung out, like not strung out ever to where I'm like not functional, but you internally know when you're bugging, you know what I mean? When you're losing control, like you could be functional, but yet you could be dysfunctional at the same time, losing control. But you have such a pride and about yourself. You don't want anybody to know, where everybody know, and you don't want to be out there in public and like all out with it. No, that was suppressed deep, you know what I mean? Even though people know, you know what I mean? So when I got to that stage, start progressing, and then it starts bringing in, it starts reinforcing issues that are unresolved that you may have not even known you had. Like maybe you're following in your life, or you're dealing with some sort of rejection, some sort of ostracization, whatever it is. It normally comes from childhood or something like that. Then it becomes to feed. You begin to depend on the drugs to medicate you from this internal pain that you didn't even really know where it came from, because you really just thought it was fun. You know what I mean? Fun, in the fun category. So I'm like, dang, how in the world I get on this? Then it graduated from doing it in the soda can, and then even trying that the stem, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I'm really bugging because I really like it, you know what I mean? So I'm like, man, you a crackhead, you a bugged out dude, man. Like, what's going on? You can't be no crackhead, you know what I mean? Like, I just something like that in my head always was like that. Like, so I had to go into so bad. I had to go into a treatment facility for that, right? And yeah, they teach you some things, and it's a lot of helpful things in there. Um, when you're going through there. But one thing I never subscribed to, some of them Narcotics Anonymous and AA meetings, they want you to identify with being yourself, that which you participated in. They would say stuff like crackhead responding. You know what I mean? They would be like, you were responding to a term being called a crackhead or a cokehead or, you know what I mean, a dope head responding. Nah, I never subscribed to that, right? And another thing that helped me get over that was like a change in geographical location. And I know they say wherever you go, there you are, and that's true. But when I moved from New York to Georgia, all that was gone. You know what I mean? All of that was gone. I didn't even have the desire to do nothing hard drugs and like that. And I was there for like 10, 15 years. On and off, it's about 10, 15 years. So that was like, no. And but what didn't stop was the energy, the heatedness, the energy, which brought out the alcohol, the partying, and the women, and the sex, right? Because when I got down to Atlanta, party, that's all I did. You know what I mean? I was married. You go out to a city like Atlanta from New York, and you married, and you young, and you haven't sown all your wild oats and all that, you in trouble. You know what I mean? And then it begins to reduce your characteristics reduce me down to, even before I left, filled with that partying spirit and all that. I was married. It'll reduce you down to where now you gotta lie. You know, you gotta cheat to fill this need or whatever. You're lying and cheating, hanging out all night. You know what I mean? My wife used to have to come find me. You know what I mean? Like, it was a lot of wild stuff, man. Wow, right? And through all of this, you would think like, wow, he's bugging. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa. As I retraced my steps, I realized that God was watching me and had my back through all of that. And I'm completely in totally transgression and violation. But he saw something, you know what I'm saying? And he saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, right? So, but even in all of that, some of us, we still like, we fly or too fly, we'll get over it. And you know, sometimes you think you're invincible. Oh, I'll get over this. But no, if it wasn't for the grace of God, I wouldn't have got over it. So once I got out of that, but that addictive nature, drinking, smoking weed, and now sometimes smoking cigarettes. Now I wasn't smoking cigarettes, I was on and off with that. But once the smoke cleared, no pun intended, it was left with more smoke. And I started smoking cigarettes. And really kind of heavily, like after like 2010, 208, from 2008 on to like, no, from like 2008 to like 2012, like, you know what I mean? It stopped, but then it'll pick back up again to where I'm smoking either Black and Miles and all that. I just always had to have the habit now of going to my lips, right? To the point where I was like, wait a minute. This is on and off for too long, right? And it started to increase in packs a day. So let me break it down. The addiction to cocaine, crack cocaine, and I ain't really never have no problem with alcohol, but those have subsided completely. I have lost complete desire for them. until I would get back to my familiar geographic location, which is my hometown. And then it would just creep back up. And then I would veer off. But something kept pulling me back. You know what I mean? Kept pulling me back. Like, nah, that still ain't you. To the point where I knew it was over. When I was able to be around people that I used to hang around and help them, you know, get high, whatever, but not partake, you know what I mean? And at the same time, talk to them about, try to encourage them to get off of it too. Me, I think hitting off crack cocaine and things like that, those are miracles. When you can get off stuff like that, that's by the will and grace of God, right? So God delivered me from that, right? To where they don't have no taste buds or no desire, no nothing. And I don't know if I use my technique, but I'm going to get into my technique in a minute. So now, all the way up to like 2014, where it really picked up. It still was on and off, but 2014, about 2018, 2014, yeah, because 2014 I would start traveling. In 2015, you know, I started traveling. That's how I got to Oklahoma. That's where I met my girl. That's where I met my boy Adam. That's where I met a lot of people. So, you know, I was smoking cigarettes, you know, but for almost a year, from 2015 to like 2016, or almost the end of 2015, I stopped smoking cigarettes because I was in that program. I was in the program, but I wasn't in there for no drugs. It was because it was a homeless shelter, right, in Tulsa. So I wasn't smoking no cigarettes. It was only when I got out, and my friend who later became my girl, she had already quit smoking. So I had already started experimenting, like when I first got out with smoking cigarettes, and it was back again. I was like, dang, it was almost a year before I started. No. That whole year I stopped. That was later on. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up the timeline. So from about 2015 to about 2017 or 18, where my friend became my girl. She has quit smoking, but I was like, yo, I need a cigarette. And you know what I mean? And that kind of, women emulate you, you know what I mean? And she kind of went back to smoking because of me. But I think it's like from 2017 or 2018 to 2019, something dawned on me, and I was like, this can't continue on for where I'm trying to go. You know what I mean? For where I'm trying to go, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, because I was realizing there was a lot of things going on inside my body I didn't understand. But I was like, if I want to get right with God and traverse from this life into the next life and kingdom of heaven, being in the kingdom of God, there are a lot of things that has to be stopped. There's a lot of things have to come to an end. The ing in the word going stands for I'm not going. Hell too hot, the lake of fire too hot, and there's fire and brimstone there. So I ain't gonna keep lighting up fire and brimstone and then ingesting it in this body and expect to, you know, I'm gonna show up to the pearly gates with a blunt or a cigarette in my hand talking about let me in. No, I'm not with that. So, and I definitely ain't going to where your whole body is a cigarette and you're burning. So I'm not going there. So I started reading, and then it just dawned on me, reading the Bible, not just reading the Bible, and then some things that just dawn on you. And then when you come across scriptures like, what is it, Proverbs 18, when you start looking up scriptures like this. Proverbs, yeah, it's in 18:21, where it says, Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Dig this. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. That means if it's in the power of the tongue, that which you enunciate, declare, decree, profess out of your mouth is either can lead to the channels and annals of death or to the channels and highways of life. That stuck with me. And they that love it. So if you love death, you're going to eat the fruit thereof, of that death, of the fruit of death thereof. You're going to eat that. You know what I mean? But if you love life, you're going to bear and eat the fruit thereof of that, of life. So that became powerful to me. Then there was another scripture, like, I think it's Romans 4:17, where it says, as it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations before him whom he believed, even God, who quickeneth the dead, and calleth those things which be not as though they were. So God has descended upon us and given us the information that he's empowering us to be able to do that which he does, not in the same way, but we do have that power to call those things which be not as though they were. Before Christ or Jesus would heal anybody, he'll ask them, do you believe I can do it? Paul and Peter and them say, and James and them say, if don't think to get anything from God unless you believe it first. It dawned on me, because I'm really telling y'all the story of giving y'all the powerful addictions. You know, the chemical warfare, like the drugs, you know what I mean? The pharmakia, the drugs, drug addictions. I ain't talking about conquering pornography and stuff like that. That's another, I could touch on that, because that's another thing that is beyond powerful than what drugs, according to, in my opinion, is more powerful than that. You know what I mean? Well, thank God for the information in the game on that, because, you know, semen retention and speaking and calling those things which be not as though they were. So, yes, that spirit of partying and stuff like that, that could dissipate. But the chemical warfare that they made so readily available to us, alcohol, hard drugs like crack cocaine, things, heroin, no, they got meth out there, and they even got this zombie drug called Flocka, where that's nothing but, people say demonic possession, but I would say the unclean spirit has have total possession of that person that take that drug, because that is a gateway, a portal for legion of devils or unclean spirits to enter into your body. They don't want to play with Flocka. So these type of drugs. But in my personal life, cocaine, crack cocaine, marijuana, I ain't really nearly have that much problem with marijuana, because, yeah, I used to be a pothead, but once marijuana started and weed started making me feel paranoid, I was like, I don't want that. And the only time I could really smoke weed was when I was drinking, because, you know, that liquid courage, I was able to, you know, deal with, you know, marijuana. But marijuana was no big deal. But crack cocaine, cocaine and crack cocaine, and those were real big. But the biggest one out of all of them, the most stronghold and powerful out of all of them put together, is cigarettes. So one day, it's like, you know, at the end of like 2018, like, or maybe mid 2018, the end of 2018, I said, you know what? this can't continue. I'm not going to continue this smoking cigarettes. You know what I'm saying? Nah. God done delivered me from crack cocaine. That's a miracle. Cocaine, that's a miracle. And, you know, I even lost the desire to keep partying and all that, even though I still love to enjoy myself. But anyway, and I still would drink on occasion at that time. So I was like, man, I wanted to stop. Like, it kept, like, I couldn't keep, you know what I mean, like smoking, because it was weakening me. You know, I lost stamina. I can't run. You know what I'm saying? It just, you know what I mean? It was just getting to that point. So my body and my flesh loved it and enjoyed it so much. So I said, okay. If death and life are, then it just came to me, if death and life are in the power of the tongue, and I can call those things which be not as though they were, that's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to beat it. So I said, I'm going to stop this. That's a declaration. I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes. Not only I said that I was going to stop, I said how I was going to stop, and I added all the details to it. I said, not only that I'm going to stop cold turkey. I described how I was going to stop. And not only that, not only am I going to go cold turkey, is that all the urges, all the desires, and all the taste for it, and the habitual habits that I have, moving my hands, all of that is going to be gone. I won't even have the desire to do it. It'll all be taken away. It'll all be taken away. I will lose the desire. I will lose the habit. I will lose the taste out of my mouth for it, and it will all be cold turkey. I said that. No, I did right after that. I smoked a cigarette right after that. I said, you're on your way out. And not only that, this is something else I said. And you will be gone forever. Never, you will never return here again. You will never come back. That sounds crazy, right? No. God deposited in that knowledge into me and that information into me, though it is written in this book, but it's like a spiritual revelation. And then it's like you put forth your word, and the word began to manifest flesh around it, and that flesh was mine. I put that word out, and that word became flesh in my life. And I remember, this is like end of, maybe like the middle or end of 2018. Might have been September or November. Might have been even closer than that. I'm trying to keep it real. So about 3 months later, 3 or 4 months later, the end of 2018, January, I think it was January, I don't remember, January 19th, one of them. It might have been early, whenever this will happen. In the month of January, I'm like, I'm not aware, but I am aware, you know, because I keep saying, it's your time is up. It's almost up. It's about January, something happened. I started realizing times was getting serious out here in this world, you know what I mean? And this is when Trump was in office. This is 2019. This is before COVID, all that, before the pandemic, before all of that. Trump had threatened to shut down the government over something. And I realized, I was like, this is serious. I'm like, nah, that's serious. No. And all of a sudden, it was like the fear of that, me wasting time and doing that. I was like, nah, I better get right, because it's starting to look like some end time scenarios or whatever. And I just took one hit of cigarette one day in January. After hearing that, I just decided that was it. I think I was down to my last few cigarettes, and I just smoked them. And just hearing that, I said, that was it. Time has come. And I didn't even audibly say it. I think internally, the switch came on. The word I had caught up to the word that I have put out there. It's a spiritual power. I put it out there, and then I caught up to it. It just caught up. It was automatic. It was automatic. It was a seed sown. When I sowed my word out there into the atmosphere, went through this process. It was budding, because I was smoking less and all that. So when you start seeing yourself smoking less or whatever, you might be coming to that close, but you have to make up your mind that that's what you want to do. See, intention is important. If you don't have no intentions on doing it, and you're resigned to saying that I'm a prisoner of this habit, and you want to do it and all that, then you can pretty much hang it up. You're gonna be addicted because you don't want it. You don't want it. You don't want to stop. So you could be in that prison for decades, because you kind of want to stop, but you don't believe that you can. You haven't put that word out there, that declaration out there. But when it hit exactly how I said it was. God gave me that unction to word it that way, to get the biblical reference for it, and to see that it was faithful and true, that is real. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. You can call those things which be not as though they were. Faith coming by hearing, and hearing the word of God. You know what I'm saying? So when I put it out and I call it those things which be not as though they were, it caught up to me. Boom. I lost the desire. I lost the taste. I lost the urges. I lost all of it. That was in 2019 in January. Ain't touched it since. It's now June of 2025. That's 6 years out of there. Pornography, different, but I added implemented the same system, the same principle, the same faith, the same belief. Hold on. Oh, that's her right now. Let me tell her I'll call her right back. Yeah, I like that. You about to go out?
No, I already went out.
Oh, you went out? Yeah, you in the middle of my video real quick. I'm about to wrap my video up.
Oh, I was gonna say you're dressed and out of bed, so.
Oh yeah. But give me like 2 minutes, because I'm wrapping it up.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. I'll call you.
I want to hear about it too.
Well, you'll see it, because it's kind of like what we was talking about earlier. Like, I'm helping people how to, you know what I mean, get the courage and strength to overcome things. So, but, and I mentioned our conversation earlier. See, and people, the video's still rolling, so they're going to hear all of this. All of this is going to be in there.
Hey, everybody.
Well, it's not on live, but you know what I'm saying? But
okay.
that's, But you must have caught at the right time. So
Yeah, call me back when it's over then.
yeah, it'll be over in about 2 minutes. All right. All
Okay.
right. All right. All right. All right, that's funny she called because this is who I was talking to, my girl. I was talking to my girl earlier about overcoming these things. So I lost the desire to it. For pornography, the same thing. I said, I'm gonna stop watching it, stop, and it's gonna go cold turkey, losing the urge, the desire, the urges, the flesh, the desire, and all that. That's gonna be cold turkey, and it'll never return. You know what I'm saying? Besides, that's minimizing. You know what I mean? It's like minimal, getting into the animalistic. I'm trying to become the image of God. You know what I'm saying? And get into the full power of the glow. Because when you practice in semen retention, there are some extreme benefits. Your confidence level goes up. It increases. You have a mental clarity like nobody else. Your whatever you're trying to manifest, manifestation happens clearer. You get a laser sharp eye. It's something in your eyes to where it gives you like a laser sharp stare or something. Like you could look into the soul of people and not be afraid. Like you start losing your fears and all of that. Same things with fears. Fear of death, fear of heights, fear of being closed places, all kind of phobias, fear of success, fear of failure, all these type of fears. All of them, I have to make a list. They're on my hit list of the things that I must conquer, because there's another scripture that says this, and I'm gonna close out with this. In Romans 8:37 say, nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that love us. And what are you conquering? All of these internal battles, so it'll get you to the glow where God loves over all. But through that, the whole thing is he was protecting me even while I was wilding and bugging out. But I just wanted to give y'all this revelation, and especially talking more so about the chemical warfare that's in your eternal body, like cigarettes, weed, alcohol, whatever. You can overcome them, but I hope this method works for you. Call those things which be not as though they were. Romans 4:17. And death and life are in the power of the tongue. That's Proverbs, I think it's 18:21, whatever, but it's in the 18th chapter, so you'll find it. 18:21, I think. Implement those, but you gotta want it. You gotta have that desire to want to stop. You have to have a reason why. My reason why was I'm trying to go to heaven, the kingdom of heaven. I'm not going to where I'm going to be a cigarette myself in hell, in the lake of fire. That should be enough motivation for anybody. You know what I mean? And to clean this temple up, because you're going to get even more right now benefits. Your wind is going to return, stamina, your health will increase, and things like that. You'll eliminate chances of dangerous and malignant diseases such as cancer and all that. You don't want that smoke with that, trust me. You don't want those type of things in your body, especially if something you can control. So anybody that's struggling with cigarettes, especially, because that to me is stronger, and alcohol too, that's strong too. Crack cocaine, meth, any kind of substance abuse or some controlled substance or whatever, or anything that's taking over. Now, it's all right to have a little drink every now and then, but if it's getting to the point where it's controlling your life, no, you can't do that. So, So I hope this, blesses y'all, man. I love y'all, man. Just wanted to come there and drop that on you, drop a gem on you, you know what I'm saying? And let you, and to give you my keys to success, how I was how I was able to overcome addictions and will overcome fears and more addictions right now and even in the future, where I'll be totally eliminated. You know what I mean? And it gets you to the golden glow, baby. So, hey, it's Glow Gang for show. Go Glow Gang for life. You dig? Y'all have a blast, past, wild now, and the greater later. Live the life of your design so you can have a good time for a lifetime. Live the life of his design so you will be divine for the rest of your lifetime. Guess who the rapper in the capacity of the reluctant YouTuber? Hey, I'm creating my channel called Guess Who the Watchman, where I'll be dealing with more topics, you know what I'm saying, that's dealing with a lot of politics and, spiritual matters and biblical, topics and things of that nature. So get ready for that, man. Then I'll have y'all hop over there and subscribe. No content up yet, but I will. I might be transitioning some of that type of content that I already have on this channel over there, you know what I'm saying? So this one will be purely stuff like this, motivational, inspirational, so you can, look within, because there's one place you have not looked, and it's there, only there, that you should find a master. Sure look like a master to me. I love y'all. Peace.